What's going on, everybody? Greetings. So, this is going to be our first official video centered around this whole movie decoding series. It's not the first video I've done, so you can go back and check those, especially the Matrix series. Highly recommended. But this is the first one that I'm doing that's officially a part of this series. It's going to be a consistent thing. I would like for you guys to send me recommendations, comment on the movies you want me to look at, you want me to break down the TV shows, because this is going to get really big. I can just feel it. I can feel it. So, I want y'all to make sure subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, so every time we do this, you know what's up. You can check it out, because we definitely are going to do these new movies as they come, and gradually I'm going to go back and do the older movies that carry some type of theme or, you know, some type of breakdown that I really just want to get across. So, speaking of which, this first one, this movie is pretty old. Came out in 2012, Cabin in the Woods. So, this movie, Cabin in the Woods, it came out on April the 13th, 2012, which was actually a Friday the 13th. Now, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to the podcast episode that was done. Episode number 12, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, it was episode 12, where I talk about the unlucky number 13 and why it is powerful and lucky for those who know. So, that's a good background listen to before we dive into this. It's nice and short. It's probably like 25-30 minutes. So, it's not even that long, so you don't have to worry about it being crazy long. I don't know how long this video is going to get. I don't think it'll be too bad, because Cabin in the Woods is pretty direct and it's not too heavily laced. They just kind of got a theme that I really rock with. This is one movie where they actually show you what's really gonna happen if shit don't go their way. So that's why I really rock with this one, because of that. Because most of these movies don't show you that, because you gotta understand a movie in itself is just a ritual of your mind. They are entering your mind to tell you some things that they want you to grow in your mind. So this particular movie, the way it ends, the way it lays out, is not really the ending that is typically pushed. So that's why I really rock with this one. So we're going to jump right up into it. Now, this particular movie, The Cabin in the Woods, is about 5 friends who take a trip to the cabin, and they get way more than they bargained for. Now, it's under the genre of horror, and it's also under the genre of comedy. So already you got opposing clashes, horror and comedy, right? But anyway, we're going to get into it. The movie's only an hour and a half long. Now, as far as the way this goes, I'm going to just break the movie down as the movie goes. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you watch it prior to. You can even listen to this while you watch it. You know, you might pause here or there. You might catch some things. You might catch some things that I might have missed. If that's the case, if you catch something that I missed, drop that in the comments. You know, and we can start a thread on that as well. Who knows? So maybe we'll come back and revisit it. So, looking at the Cabin in the Woods, like I said, it's about 5 friends. So you got 5 main characters off the gate. Now, when the movie is coming on, the whole intro, it's like ritual pieces. It looks like, you know, olden times, and showing you all these little symbols or whatnot. But that's what this movie is about. It's all about ritual. So, and pardon me if you see me look over. I'm just going to glance at my notes so I can make sure I don't miss anything. So, the movie opens in a lab, an underground lab kind of looks like, because you don't see no windows. So, you figure it has to be somewhere in a very secluded location, top secret type of thing. So you're in the lab. We meet these guys in the lab. It's 2 guys in the lab. This lady comes and joins them. They start talking about Stockholm failed. We realize they're talking about Stockholm, Sweden. So these people are conducting these experiments that are basically rituals that are in different parts of the world. And she lets them know it's just us in Japan. So apparently whoever else is conducting these experiments in there, you know, in these places, is down to the United States and Japan. Okay? So that's how it starts off in the very beginning. So they show us who's behind the scene first. Well, for the most part, we're going to call these people the watchers. We're going to say they're the watchers. They're the ones who are the, you know, they're pulling all the strings. Right? So when we meet the 5 people, the friends, we meet them. We have Dana. So when we introduce to her, we can tell she's the main character, right? She's the first one that we see. She's drawing, sketching this older man. So we're learning about her character now. And what we've learned is that she just comes out of a relationship dating an older man. He's a professor. And he's significantly older. So he's pretty much like a father figure. So she's being the symbolized of leaving from the father. She's going to play the role of the virgin. And we also meet her friend, what's her friend's name? Jules. Now, when we first see her, she's a blonde, and they acknowledge that she's not normally a blonde. This is important information, even though we don't know it yet. But they make it a whole thing about her now being a blonde. We meet her boyfriend, Kurt, smart guy, intelligent guy. We meet the other character, Holden. Then we meet Marty. Marty's basically the weed smoker. He's like the little woke, little conscious one. He's the unconventional, non-traditional person. So he's the one odd person kind of out. He's non-traditional. He doesn't follow things traditional like most. He literally drove up smoking weed. So these are the people that we are introduced to. So this is the meeting, and this meeting is important because these characters go through such a drastic change as they enter the roles that they are playing in these rituals, and they do it, and they are unknowingly participants in this ritual as well, which is a very important thing to take note of. Now, so we met them. So you got 5 people. They hopping in a camper RV. They going off into a cabin in the woods somewhere off grid where there's no traffic cameras, no cell phone towers. So you can just about imagine what type of environment this is, considering it's a horror movie. So now, like I said, you got to check out that Friday the 13th. So, but anyway, it's a typical old school horror type of film, and we mostly grew up on these films, and they bombarded us with these type of films too. And that's a very important message in why they did that as well, because it's a metaphysical and spiritual meaning to that also. So go back to the podcast so you can make sure that you catch that, right? So most of the time, weird, creepy stuff is always taking place out in the woods where it's dark. There's not a whole lot of people. There's not a whole lot of lighting. So that's why a lot of weird stuff happening in the woods. So as we said, we have Jules. She's now the bimbo, the airhead girlfriend. She's a blonde now. So basically, we see her take the role of the whore. Dana's going to take the role of the virgin. Jules is going to take the role of the whore, which pits them as the opposites. You get Marty, who's the fool, because he's the nonsense guy. He just smokes weed and he's all about the fun and being calm and relaxed and all that type of thing. And you got Holden, who was the scholar. He was a smart guy, you know. And I'm going to point out how they turned into these characters. Because, like I said, initially when you meet them, this isn't really who they are, but they fall into these roles not realizing how they fell into these roles. And it's important to note that, because that's how rituals be happening a lot of times that people are talking about when we're talking about major figures that are in the public eye, because the importance of these people are the fact that they're on the grand stage. So it's the stage that everybody can see. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody's life is a grand stage. But people who are celebrities, who have fame, their stage is for the entire world to see. So grand schemes of things go on these grand stages because they have to play out in front of everybody, right? So Marty being a weed smoker, he's like the woke one. So when we learn this as they're driving, he's talking about, society needs to crumble with really just two chicken shit to do it. So Marty already has his mentality. This is already the way that he's thinking. They looking at Marty like he crazy. Like, oh, Marty, I just love to hear you rant on. Just talk about this nonsense like it's nothing. Yada, yada, yada. So, but it comes along with the terms of demonizing weed or cannabis. That's a part of the whole thing as well. Weed, marijuana, cannabis is really, really demonizing. That was for a purpose. There's a reason. There was a whole agenda behind demonizing weed, especially when it came to a lot of hippies. All right, so as Marty said, he says, you will come to see things my way. He doesn't realize how prophetic he is, but he truly is. And we all see that ourselves. We realize, damn, okay, we feel Marty really was kind of tapped in. But the weed is what made him tapped in, though. Peep game. We're going more and more into it, right? So they pass by this store. Okay? And at the store, they meet who we find out later, the Watchers call him the Harbinger. You understand the definition of a Harbinger, right? That's a person that's signaling something or someone is coming. So he's the Harbinger. Most time people Harbinger of death. And that's pretty much what he is to them as well, because he gives them a warning, even though it sounds like gibberish. So he gives them the warning. So, and he also lets them know, hey, they coming, they on route, yada, yada, yada. That's how it goes. Now, he says that there's enough gas for you to get there. I don't know about you getting back. And they think that, he's just saying that, but there's meaning to what he's saying. He literally just speaks truth. He literally just tells truth. But it's his way of communicating the words that he used. They can't understand what he's talking about. So it's like gibberish. So it doesn't really matter that he's saying anything at all, because it doesn't make sense to them at this particular point in time. And that's even when he speaks, when he calls in and talks to the people that's watching. So when they go through the tunnel, right, it's very symbolic of them going through that tunnel. The symbolism, because you see a hawk or an eagle flying, and it hits the outside of that dome that you can't see, signaling, showing that they're not in a normal place anymore. That everything has changed. That now they're in a whole different environment. Like now they are going into the playfield, so to speak. Now they're entering the stage. So they get there. The guy's name who tried to warn them, actually his name was Mordecai. Mordecai, if you look up the meaning of the name Mordecai, the way that it is spelled in the movie, it means warrior or worshiper or follower of Marduk, the Babylonian deity, who was the chief god of Babylon, who became lord of the gods of heaven and earth after conquering Tiamat, which is the chaos god, or the Titans or ancient ones. This is important. This is important because they're already telling you. See, that's why he talk a different language and don't nobody understand what he talking about. Even when he called in to talk to them and they made fun of him, and he was trying to tell them that be wary because something is coming. So he wasn't just a harbinger in terms of the kids on the path. He was a harbinger for those who were watching, as in what was to come. So in that name, and understanding Babylon, the fall of Babylon, all this correlates so much because of how the story lays out and what the ritual is all about. We'll come back to it and understand about Titans and the Chaos Gods and all that. We'll be back. But everybody laughed at the dude, Morty. Everybody laughed at him, picking him, thinking what he's saying is a joke. But then we get into the typical white people, scary movie type of thing. They jumping in lakes, they just doing white people shit. That's just what happens, right? So they start They showing us between these two worlds, right? So they're showing us also how the watchers go about this whole thing while this is happening, and we learn more information about it. They start to take bets, and they start to weigh the odds, and they're betting on what it is that is going to be the fear that is their downfall, right? So this is where we get the information. The black dude, the black character, Truman. His name is Truman. Truman, the name Truman, true man, it means loyalty, right? But anyway, Truman is asked, he asked them, is it fixed? Because, and he asked them, do they control the outcome? And then one of the guys, Gary, he says, we just get them there. We just get them in the environment. We just get them in the cellar. They have to choose. That's where your free will come in at. They have to choose. All right, so they choose based on their own free will. So like the Harbinger being a sign of death to come. So they had to place him in the system in order for it to work. So he had to be there in order for it to work. So they're going to give you a warning, because the warning has to be there, because in order for the system to work. But they still had to choose to continue despite that warning. That was all a part of the whole plan, as in making a choice. Remember, Matrix Reloaded, and the Architect talking about the choice, and Moravian talking about the illusion of choice. All of these things are trying to tell us the same type of concepts and ideologies. So he says it's rigged as much as it can be, but it is still your choice. That's real life. All this shit is rigged as much as it can be. The odds are stacked against you as much as it can be, but you still have to choose your destruction. You still have to choose it, because you are the one that's really in control of everything. That's just how it all goes. So they party, start a game, go to truth or dare, and we see the characters change, right? As they change, we notice their changes. And Marty is the one who points this out, because Marty is the woke one. His third eye is open. He's awake. He doesn't have a calcified pineal gland like the rest of them. See, we learned that they gave the girl dyeing her hair, the perm, the relaxer. See, they tampered with her susceptibility through that relaxer, through the chemicals. They made it easier for her to be susceptible, because remember, she was a pre-med student. So how she go from being a pre-med student to being a total airhead? How did that happen? Her boyfriend Kurt was a sociology major. How did he turn into a jock, into an alpha jock? You know, even with Holden, when they go in the cellar and they find the little diary and they start to read from it, and she reads the Latin, he recollects Latin that he took in middle school, and he's like, I don't know why I remembered that. That's because he was playing the role of the scholar. So you got certain works at bay that you can't see, that you don't know that it is there. You see what I'm saying? So Marty is playing as the fool, and that's because that's how everybody is looking at him, like he's the fool. It's just obvious, and it's pretty easy, because he's supposed to be, the little weed smoker. Don't take him serious, but honestly, he's the only one with any sense. He's the only one that his intuition is actually working. He's actually able to acknowledge that something is not quite right here, and we see that more and more and more, right? So obviously they had to disturb something, and they did. Okay, Dana, the chosen one, she had to choose this diary. She started reading from it. Like I said, she said some shit she really shouldn't have said. Boom. So now she conjured up some type of evil now, and it has to take them out now, because that's how it goes. So you notice how much these people, the watchers, are controlling the environment. They're releasing pheromones to get them to be sexual at certain particular times, changing the lighting, changing the temperature. All of these things are happening just so, because, and it has to follow certain way. You ever wonder why scary movies have to follow a certain plot line? You ever wonder why the black dude gotta die in the movie? See, these things aren't really a coincidence. It's a ritual. So this movie is breaking down the ritual and making the ritual literal in the movie, showing you how roles are easily created and played and carried out based on the people that are there. Like the director later says, we work with what we have. That's just how it is. So, and that lets you know that the energy changes for gods and deities. You get what I'm saying? Because Dana wasn't a virgin, but she was the closest that they had, and they could work with it because of the energy that she was utilized. She pretty much came from under a father figure type of energy, even though it was somebody that she was dating. So it could, in just in a sense, and just how it was. So understand that certain deities and certain energies today may be changed and may feed off of different things based on today's time. So we have to, this is what this movie is showing us, and it's breaking down to us, because you got to understand, most of the people behind these movies are major occultists. That's just what it is. That's where all the best stories come from. They're occult stories. They're ancient shaman mysteries and things like that. It's not original. That's where it comes from. So, okay, back to everything. So, when the first girl is killed, Jules, they say a prayer after when she's killed. They say, pretty much they do. They say, "This we offer in humility and fear for the blessed peace of your eternal slumber, as it ever was." So it says, "This we offer in humility and fear." So just out of the fear, they offer that to them. It's so many little things all throughout the movie that's kind of giving you little hints. So it's just like, Marty says, because I forgot, I gotta go back, and then they made it evident about how much under control they were when Kurt came in, and they were like, "We have to stick together." And the Watchers was like, "No, this isn't what we want." And they said, "Hold on." They released certain chemicals and whatnot, and it started to tamper with Kurt's mind. And he was like, "No, wait. We gotta split up," which is what they wanted them to do. Right? So, Marty hears a voice. He's the one that hears the voice. There's even a voice talking to them, telling them what to do. You know, there was a voice that told Dana to read it out loud. And there's a voice that was telling Marty to go take a walk. So there's voices that he hears, and he's like, "No, like, I hear this. I'm not going to be a puppet." But he still does go for the walk anyway. But he is somewhat aware of what is going on. So this is, don't understand, he's awake. So everybody else is just kind of sleeping, but he's awake. It's kind of like if you've seen Percy Jackson, the first one, when they were in Vegas and they kept eating of the whatever it was, the lotus, and it made them just bliss, and they just forgot everything they was doing, and everything is it's like that. But when you awake and you know what's going on, you looking around trying to figure out why the hell is nobody else reacting to this the way that I am. And it can almost make you question your own sanity, because you like, I know I'm not crazy. I know I see what I see. But if nobody else is reacting to it, then it's going to make you question your reality at the end of the day. Okay, so, and even with Holden and Dana, she reacted to it like they had a connection. And he almost, I guess they were almost about to kiss. And she said, "Wait, I never." And she paused like, why did I say that? Because she's falling into this role of being the virgin. So that energy is just ever present in what it is that she's doing. Pardon me, y'all. My fault. Let me try and get a little more comfortable. So there's a point in the movie that's important that I got to make sure that I don't forget to put this in. But when they're discussing the nightmares, the creatures or whatever, Truman says to the woman, he says, "It looks like something from out of a nightmare." And she said, "No, this is where nightmares come from." And she was pointing down, referencing whatever it is that's being held below is the same energy frequency, or it correlates the same with these monsters. So what they're really talking about is concentrated power, concentrated darkness. Okay, so is representing melanin, because concentrated melanin is always depicted as something monstrous. That's what it is. That's because it's darkness. That's just, it's about understanding what it's trying to depict, what it's wanting you to reverence this as. Extreme power, something to fear. That's the point that they're trying to drive home. So they have to utilize these monsters in order to offer up the fears, along with, that's what the blood and everything represents in each death of the person. It has to do also with the fear, just like they mentioned right after the first girl was killed, and they kind of like symbolize the first sacrifice being made. And so as we see, the movie just boils down to the ritual taking place through horror. It boils down to them choosing or selecting their own destruction by awakening or summoning some type of evil. And they are being pulled like puppets. Like Marty says, like puppeteers. Like we're being pulled like puppets on a string. Almost like they weren't in control. And it's all to carry out this ritual. And that shit happens in real life. Sometimes people are put in positions they don't feel in control over themselves, and certain things play out. And certain things happen, especially when we are talking about people that are in the public eye. Because it's not by a coincidence, because we talking about rituals and the way certain things have to go about. See, all you are doing is recreating. You are recreating certain elements in the environment from whenever this shit was done before. So we dealing with some ancient shit. They just recreating all the elements that made up that particular moment in time, and just trying to recreate that and bring that same energy and harness that energy. That's what it's really all about. So when he's talking about them being from out of your nightmares, understand fear is the perfect form of manipulation and control. So you are taunted through your fears, and you are made food for the gods. That's how it works. So when they're all locked down in their rooms, this is when Marty finds a camera. And Marty is like, what is going on? Am I on a reality show? But something is not real. Something isn't right. But right at that moment, the girl comes and attacks them. So it's as real as it can be at this moment, because he's in danger and they're literally trying to kill him. So there's nothing that's fake about it when your actual real life is in danger. And so Dana and Holden end up in the basement, and this is where the whole myth comes more to life to them. Because see, what happens when you dealing with an entity, right? Supernatural entities like that is all based around a story. That's what kind of makes it real. So when they end up in this cellar or end up in this room, this is what she finds out. Okay, so this is how everything happens. And she loses hope in that moment and feels like they're gonna die, because like, oh man, this shit is really real. Like, look at this room, all this really happened. Something is really trying to kill us. So the ritual, the fear, everything of it is just, that's what it's supposed to create. Now mind you, all this has been created for a reason. This ritual is being carried out for a reason, right? So and I found it funny when they flashed to the watchers, the main two watchers that we kept seeing, and said, oh, these fucking zombies. Remember when you could just throw a girl in a volcano? And dude said, how old do you think I am? So Pete, listen to what they telling you. Listen to what they telling you. That's what that was back then. That's what this is correlating with. Basic ritualistic sacrifice to higher beings out of fear. So And then we get the news. The girl comes in and says Japan failed, and they show us these young kids, these little Japanese girls, and they free this terrifying spirit and put it into a frog. And it's like everything is just left on the U.S. for this ritual to transpire. Because if this ritual doesn't happen, we don't know what it is that's going to happen, but we know that they're really trying to make sure that this happens for the sake of you know who. That's what they keep pointing at, you know who. So they eventually say, yo, what is it in this guy's weed? And they said let's see what happened. So now at this point, they trying to get out of Dodge. Okay, so the girl has died. As far as they know, Marty is dead. It's only Holden, Kurt, and Dana. They're trying to leave. They're trying to get out. Trying to hop in the car, leave. Remember, it's only one way in, one way out, though. All right. So the cave was supposed to be blown, and they couldn't get out. At least that was the plan for the Watchers. And they realize that it's not blown and they can actually get out. And so they are racing, trying to stop them from getting out. And they reference upstairs. They say there was a reroute from upstairs. And he says upstairs. Now, we've never heard upstairs before. We've heard downstairs. We've heard them mention downstairs a couple of times, but never upstairs. They never mentioned upstairs. So that was kind of like a So for it to be a rewire, for it to happen, it was almost like it was supposed to happen where it was an opportunity for them to escape and the ritual failed. So, but they end up blowing it in time. More people died. Kurt died. Holden died. So now it's looking like a celebration because all that's left is Dana. And so they explain to Truman, hey, well, it doesn't matter if she lives or dies. She just has to die last. She has to suffer. She's the virgin. That's the way the ritual goes. So, but there's a problem. Marty's not dead. Marty's alive, and he comes and he saves Dana. And he has found this trapdoor. Or he's found this, he's discovered something, and he takes her into it, and it's they realize it's a elevator to go down. Okay, so all they can do is go down. I mean, you don't want to stay up here and deal with these killer ass zombies, so all we can do is go down. Sometimes you got to go down in order to come up. That's the heavy message at the end of the day. But so as they descend, they begin to see all of these monsters, all of these terrifying beings, creatures of your worst nightmares, the worst things you could imagine. And Dana realizes in that very moment that we chose this. We picked this, And that's that when you realize the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first. And so she realized that, and now the Watchers, everybody downstairs is going crazy. Like, she's free, she's alive. Don't harm her, but kill the fool, kill the boy. So and this is what we learn about his weed. And they say the cleanup crew missed the kid's stash of weed. It turns out that his smoking has been immunizing him to all of our shit. So the weed was waking him up. So that's why there's an attack on cannabis. That's why they're legalizing cannabis, because they're putting their hands in the cannabis, because certain strands and things like that making GMO so they can alter the cannabis, because honestly, it does open up your third eye. It does. That's why there was a huge negative propaganda set out against it. So people wouldn't deal with it. So people wouldn't be enlightened. People wouldn't elevate. So you can keep people under control. That's what all this shit boils down to. It just boils down to control. And we finally hear from the director, right? So she comes out and she starts to talk to them, to be a voice of reason. You know, she wants to try and say things to them. You know, you've seen an army of nightmares, but it's nothing compared to what is below. What is it they keep talking about? What is it below? What is below? What is it that they are referencing to that's below? Right? So then they learn about the rituals and who they all are. And it's no coincidence that the director is Sigourney Weaver. We have to know that these actors and actresses are sometimes selected. A lot of times selected. They carry out certain particular roles on the grand stage. It's just what they do. It's just who they are. So you gotta remember, we saw her in Alien, we saw her in Avatar. These are heavily metaphysical and occult movies. So peep game when you see her. So she's the director. So as she comes on and explains how the whole ritual goes, she's like, everybody has, like, we have to do this or we will all suffer and die at the hands of the Titans, the monsters below, the gods who ruled the earth before. That's what it is. Because Marty asked, he said, what happens if you fail? He said, they rise. The ancient ones, the gods that ruled before, unless they accept our sacrifice. So they're offering a sacrifice to keep them from rising. So she's explaining this to them. And Dana highly considers killing Marty. She even shoots him because it's making sense, right? That made sense, right? You want to save the world, don't you? Don't you want to save the world? But are you really saving the world? Should you really save the world? I mean, if this is a matrix, should we save it? I ask this question all the time to provoke the thinking. If we are living in a matrix, why are we trying to save it? Maybe we aren't supposed to save it. Maybe we not. Maybe we should just see what happens. See, this is why I like this movie, because that's what it's addressing. And that's what happens at the end of the movie. She doesn't kill him. They end up killing the director. And they just let the shit hit the fan. And they smoke a joint. And then you just see a hand come up out of the ground. And it's cut in a movie. So, for one, this movie did not get a lot of notoriety, popularity. A lot of people never heard of this movie. And I think that's the reason behind it, because of the message in the movie. Because we have to So we always have to keep in mind these movies and this entertainment, and these things are entering our mental space, and it is influencing our minds to subconsciously perceive our reality a certain way. And these things are actually subconsciously they make us root against ourselves, because we don't understand the role that we play in the story, because we don't know who we are. So we get tricked into believing a certain way that just doesn't correlate with our origin. And it's important for us to do that in order for this thing to continue to be the way that it is, and for us to be manipulated the way that it is. So it's not a coincidence that we don't know our story like that, because it only benefits us. And if we're seen as the low class, and that's the role that we are being chosen to play as being called black people, especially black people, just the word in itself, black, and what it means, it automatically denotes us to a certain role. Why is it that you think that crime, death, and these things of chaos are associated with the dark, with black? It's not a coincidence. But it's also not a coincidence that you lack the knowledge behind the chaotic nature or the energy of the of chaos. So to remove the very the whole science of what makes you you, then I take your power away from you. And that's the whole point of it anyway, is to take your whole power away from you, because you the Titan. The gods that ruled before, who you think that is? I wonder who that's referencing. I wonder who benefits out of not knowing that science or not understanding that science. It would obviously be the conquerors. So you got to be willing to look at things from a different perspective or a different point of view, because you got to remember who's feeding you the information that you have and why they telling you what they're telling you. Because I can promise you, it's not to empower you. That's not the goal. It's not to empower you. It's to keep you trapped. To keep you trapped. So the ritual itself is to keep you down. To make sure that you never rise. You can't rise up. Because it's going to destroy everything that is now. That ends the world. As in, the world as you know it would be no more. And it's not physical destruction. But ultimately, it wouldn't be ran the same way. It wouldn't be the same world. The world would end. So, just wanted to break down this first joint for this series. It's going to be a whole lot more to come. I have so many movies, so many shows lined up. And some of them are going to be long. Ain't going to be in parts. But it's going to be a lot of jewels in it for y'all. A lot of jewels. I get asked about the movies and the TV more than anything else. And it's honestly what I love to do. For real. It's honestly what I love to do. So it's only right that I present it. That I finally do this and present it and put it out there. So you got to subscribe to the channel. You got to turn your notifications on. Because this the one. This is what we're going to do. We're going to ride this thing out. And we're going to break down these movies. And we're going to understand this whole agenda. And we're going to understand everything that's going on just by what they already show us. So that's a wrap for y'all for today. I'm about to be up out of here. I appreciate y'all for taking the time out to even listen to me. So, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know especially what movies y'all want me to do and what shows y'all want me to look into. Just let me know. I'm curious if it's anything that I don't already have on my list. Anyway. But I'm out of here. That's a wrap. Peace.